of Management Studies IGNOU presents an audiobook on the course MMPC-002 Human Resource Management for MBA program. Presenting Block 3 Performance and Compensation Management, Unit 10 Training and Development Part 1. After completing this unit, you should be able to explain the meaning of training, discuss the need and importance of training, describe various methods of training, suggest a training system, identify areas for evaluation of training, discuss ways of making training more strategic, explain the concept of retraining, and elaborate dimensions of organizational learning. Introduction. Training is required at every stage of work and for every person at work. To keep oneself updated with the fast-changing technologies, concepts, values, and environment, training plays a vital role. Training programs are also necessary in any organization for improving the quality of work of the employees at all levels. It is also required when a person is moved from one assignment to another of a different nature. Taking into account this context, this unit aims at providing insight into the concept, need, and methods of training, also areas of evaluation of training, retraining, and dimensions of organizational learning. Defining training. Training is the most important function that directly contributes to the development of human resources. This also happens to be a neglected function in most of the organizations. Recent surveys on the investments made by Indian organizations on training indicate that a large number of organizations do not even have spent 0.1% of their budget on training. Many organizations do not even have a training department. If human resources have to be developed, the organization should create conditions in which people acquire new knowledge and skills and develop healthy patterns of behavior and styles. One of the main mechanisms of achieving this environment is institutional training. Training is a short-term process utilizing a systematic and organized procedure by which personnel acquire technical knowledge and skills for a definite purpose. Needs and benefits of training. Training is essential because technology is developing continuously and at a fast rate. Systems and practices get outdated soon due to new discoveries in technology, including technical, managerial, and behavioral aspects. Organizations that do not develop mechanisms to catch up with and use the growing technology soon become stale. However, developing individuals in the organization can contribute to the effectiveness of the organization. There are some other reasons also for which this training becomes necessary. There are various factors that give rise to the need for training. They are: number 1. Employment of inexperienced and new labor requires detailed instructions for effective performance on the job. Number 2. People have not to work but work effectively with the minimum of supervision, minimum of cost, waste, and spoilage, and to produce quality goods and services. Number 3. Increasing use of fast-changing techniques in production and other operations require training into newer methods for the operatives. Number 4. Old employees need refresher training to enable them to keep abreast of changing techniques and the use of sophisticated tools and equipments. And number 5. Training is necessary when a person has to move from one job to another because of transfer, promotion, or demotion. Such development, however, should be monitored so as to be purposeful. Without proper monitoring, development is likely to increase the frustration of employees if, when Once their skills are developed and expectations raised, they are not given opportunities for the application of such skills. A good training subsystem would help greatly in monitoring the directions in which employees should develop in the best interest of the organization. A good training system also ensures that employees develop in directions congruent with their career plans. Hence, a well-planned and well-executed training program should result in number 1. Reduction in waste and spoilage. Number 2. Improvement in methods of work. Number 3. Reduction in learning time. Number 4. Reduction in supervisory burden. Number 5. Reduction in machine breakage and maintenance cost. Number 6. Reduction in accident rate. Number 7. Improvement in quality of products. Number 8. Improvement in production rate. Number 9. Improvement of morale and reduction in grievances. Number 10. Improvement of efficiency and productivity. Number 11. Reduction in manpower obsolescence. Number 12. Enabling the organization to provide increased financial incentives, opportunity for internal promotion and raising of pay rates. Number 13. Wider awareness among participants and larger skill. And number 14. Personal growth. Organizing training programs. A good system of training starts with the identification of training needs. The sources that can be used for identifying training needs are number 1. Performance review reports. Performance review reports help in identifying directions in which the individuals should be trained and developed. On the basis of the annual appraisal reports, various dimensions of training can be identified. Training needs identified on the basis of performance appraisal provide good information for organizing in company training and on-the-job training for a select group of employees. Number 2. Potential appraisal. Training needs identified on the basis of potential appraisal would become inputs for designing training programs or work out training strategies for developing the potential of a selected group of employees who are identified for performing future roles in the organization. Number 3. Job rotation. Working in the same job continuously for several years without much change may have demotivating effects. Some organizations plan job rotation as a mechanism of maintaining the motivation of people. Training is critical in preparing the employees before placing them in new job. And number 4. Continuing education. Besides these, most of the training programs that are organized today aim at equipping the managers with new technology. These training programs attempt to help the managers raise their present level of effectiveness. Methods of training. Number 1. Analysis of an activity. List in a logical sequence the activities in producing product or service or part thereof and determine what new knowledge or skill is called for or which aspect of present knowledge or skill need to be modified. Number 2. Analysis of problems. To analyze problems and determine what additional skills, knowledge or insights are required to handle it. Number 3. Analysis of behavior. To analyze typical behavior by individuals or groups and determine the corrective action involving training. Number 4. Analysis of an organization. To analyze organizational weaknesses to produce clues to both individual and group training needs. Number 5. Appraisal of performance. To analyze performance and determine that someone should get something, be it additional knowledge, skill or understanding. Number 6. Brainstorming. To bring together a homogeneous group and to ask individuals in the group to call out any ideas they have for answering how to question and identify items which call for additional knowledge, skill or attitude. Number 7. Buzzing. To ask an audience of supervisors, managers, professional personnel or others, as long as it is homogeneous, as to what the desirable next steps are in the organization's training program or what additional areas of knowledge or skill or understanding do we need to handle work better. Number 8. Card sort. To write statements of potential training needs on cards, hand them over to the persons whose ideas are sought to arrange these cards in what they feel is their order of importance for various training needs. Number 9. Checklist. To break down a job, process, program, activity or area of responsibility into a list of detailed parts or steps arranged in logical sequence. Then to have checked off by each employee the items about which he feels he would like to have more skill or knowledge. Number 10. Committee. To constitute an advisory committee composed of persons responsible for or with a direct interest in an activity to identify training needs. Number 11. Comparison. To compare what an individual is doing or contemplates doing with what others are doing or have done to learn about new ways to handle old problems, keep up to date on new techniques and procedures, and fight his own obsolescence. Number 12. Conference. To identify training needs and make decisions on ways these needs shall be met. Number 13. Consultants. To employ outside consultants to determine training needs and develop ways to meet them. Number 14. Counseling. To discuss between a training practitioner and a person seeking guidance regarding way he can improve his on-the-job performance or prepare for advancement. Number 15. In-basket. To measure or test a manager's ability to handle some of the day-to-day challenges which come to him in writing in his inbox from various sources. Number 16. Incident pattern. To note in terms of success or failure the responses to special situation and to study the pattern of deviation. Number 17. Informal talks. To meet and talk informally with people for finding clues to training needs. Number 18. Interviews. To arrange a formal meeting with the person or group concerned employing the interview techniques. Number 19. Observation. To observe such things as may have value as indicators of training needs, especially needs which are just under the surface or emerging. Number 20. Problem clinic. To arrange meetings of a homogeneous group to discuss a common problem and develop a solution. Number 21. Research. To identify implications for training and development as a result of research. Number 22. Role-playing. To get clues to his training needs in a skill, an area of knowledge or in understanding or attitude by observing how each role player acts in a role-playing situation. Number 23. Self-analysis. To self-evaluate and know what is needed in theory, additional knowledge, skill or insight. Number 24. Simulation. To analyze performance in simulated exercise to reveal individual and or group training needs. Number 25. Skill inventory. To establish and annually update an inventory of the skills of their employees and to identify gaps or blind spots in reserve or standby skills. Number 26. Slip writing. To write on a slip the type of training needed and analyze the information on these slips. Number 27. Studies. To undertake studies which can turn up training needs which will have to be met if the plans were adopted. Number 28. Surveys. To undertake surveys that can be used to take inventory of operations, employee attitudes, implications of advanced planning, etc. Number 29. Test. To perform tests to measure skill, knowledge or attitude and to identify gaps. Number 30. Task force. To constitute a task force which in analyzing the problem may unearth training needs which must be met before their recommended solution to the problem can be implemented. Number 31. Questionnaire. To develop a questionnaire to elicit information which can be used to determine training needs, delimit the scope of the training, identify course contents, etc. And number 32. Workshop. To identify in a workshop the need for further understanding or insight about organizational goals or operations. Formulation of training objectives. As you have studied earlier, the first objectives of training is to prepare employees for the job meant for them while on first appointment, on transfer or on promotion and impart to them the required skill and knowledge. The second objective is to assist the employees to function more effectively in their present positions by exposing them to the latest concepts, information, techniques, and developing the skills that would be required in their particular fields. The third objective is to build a second line of competent officers and prepare them to occupy more responsible positions. Formulation of training policy. Even though training is primarily the responsibility of the personnel department, a suitable training policy has to be evolved by the top management. It should reflect the primary and secondary objectives mentioned so far. A training policy should be able to provide answers to certain questions. These questions are: number 1. What do you want and hope to accomplish through What do you want and hope to accomplish through training? Number 2. Who is responsible for the training function? Number 3. Should the training be formal or informal? Number 4. What are the training priorities? Number 5. What types of training are needed? Number 6. When and where should training be given? Number 7. Should training be continuous or casual? Number 8. How much the employees should be paid during training? Number 9. Which outside agencies should be associated with training? And number 10. How should training be related to labor policy? Principles of an effective training program. A successful training program should be based on certain principles. These are: number 1. The objectives and scope of a training plan should be defined before its development is begun in order to provide a basis for common agreement and cooperative action. Number 2. The techniques and processes of a training program should be related directly to the needs and objectives of an organization. Number 3. To be effective, the training must use tested principles of learning. And number 4. Training should be conducted in the actual job environment to the maximum possible extent. Principles of learning. Certain principles are followed for developing effective training programs. Some of these are: number 1. Every human being is capable of learning. Number 2. An adequate interest in and motive for learning is essential because people are goal-oriented. Number 3. Learning is active and not passive. Number 4. People learn more and faster when they have information of their achievements. Number 5. People learn more by doing than by hearing along. Number 6. Time must be provided to practice what has been learned. Number 7. A knowledge of the standards of performance makes learning effective. Number 8. Learning is a cumulative process. An individual's reaction to any lesson is conditioned and modified by what has been learned by him in earlier lessons and by previous experience. Number 9. Early success increases an individual's chances for effective learning. Number 10. Effective learning results when initial learning is followed immediately by application. Number 11. The rate of learning decreases when complex skills are involved. Number 12. Learning is closely related to attention and concentration. Number 13. Learning is more effective when one sheds one's half-knowledge, prejudices, biases, likes and dislikes. And number 14. Learning to be successful should be related to a learner's experience in life. Number 15. Trainees learn better when they learn at their own pace. Training methods. Various methods of training have been evolved, and any one method or a combination of any two or more of these can be used depending upon the training requirements and the level of people to be trained. Training for different employees. The employees who are to be trained can be of different types, and each type would require a different type of training. Unskilled workers are given training in improved methods of handling machines and materials. The objective here is to secure reduction in cost of production and waste. Training is given on the job itself by immediate superior officers. Semi-skilled workers require training to cope with requirements arising out of adoption of mechanization, rationalization, and technical processes. Training is given by more proficient workers, bosses, or inspectors. It may be given either in the section or department of the worker or in segregated training shops. Skilled workers are given training through apprenticeship in training centers or in the industry itself. Salesmen are trained in the art of salesmanship, in handling customers, planning their work, and facing challenges of marketplace. Supervisory staff constitute a very important link in the chain administration. They have to cope with the increasing demands of the enterprise in which they are employed and to develop team spirit among people under their charge. A training program for them should aim at helping the supervisors to improve their performance and to prepare them for assuming greater responsibilities at higher level of management. All training methods can be broadly classified as on-the-job methods and off-the-job methods. On-the-job methods. Under these methods, the principle of learning by doing is used. Now let's discuss these methods briefly. Number 1. On-the-job training. An employee is placed in a new job and is told how it is to be performed. It aims at developing skills and habits consistent with the existing practices of an organization and by orienting him to his immediate problems. Coaching and instructing is done by skilled workers, by supervisors, or by special training instructors. A variety of training aids and techniques are used, such as procedure charts, lecture manuals, sample problems, demonstrations, oral and written explanations, tape recorders, etc. Number 2. Vestibule training or training center. It involves classroom training imparted with the help of equipment and machines identical to those in use at the place of work. Theoretical training is given in the classroom while practical work is conducted on the production line. It is often used to train clerks, bank tellers, inspectors, machine operators, typists, etc. Number 3. Simulation. It is an extension of vestibule training. The trainee works in closely duplicated real job conditions. This is essential in cases in which actual on-the-job practice is expensive, might result in serious injury, a costly error, or the destruction of valuable material or resources, for example, in aeronautical industry. Number 4. Demonstration and examples. Here the trainer describes and demonstrates how to do a certain work. He performs the activity himself, going through a step-by-step explanation of the why, how, and what of what he is doing. Demonstrations are often used in combination with lectures, picture, text material, discussion, etc. The emphasis under this method is on know-how. The principles and theory of a job must be taught by some other methods. Number 5. Apprenticeship. A major part of training time is spent on the on-the-job productive work. Each apprentice is given a program of assignments according to a predetermined schedule which provides for efficient training in trade skills. This method is appropriate for training in crafts, trades, and technical areas, especially when proficiency in a job is the result of a relatively long training or apprenticeship period. For example, job of a craftsman, a machinist, a printer, a tool maker, a pattern designer, a mechanic, etc. Off-the-job or classroom methods. Training on the job is not a part of everyday activity under these methods. Location of this training may be a company classroom, an outside place owned by the organization, an educational institution or association which is not a part of the company. These methods are: Number 1. Lectures. These are formally organized talks by an instructor on specific topics. This method is useful when philosophy, concepts, attitudes, theories, and problem solving have to be discussed. The lectures can be used for a very large group to be trained in a short time. These are essential when technical or special information of a complex nature is to be imparted. The lectures are supplemented with discussions, film shows, case studies, role-playing, etc. Number 2. The conference method. Under this method, a conference is held in accordance with an organized plan. Mutual problems are discussed and participants pool their ideas and experience in attempting to arrive at better methods of dealing with these problems. The members of the group come to teach each other and to learn together. Conferences may include buzz sessions, which divide conferences into small groups of 4 or 5 for intensive discussions. These small groups report back to the whole group with their conclusions or questions. This method is ideally suited for analyzing problems and issues and examining them from different viewpoints. It helps in developing conceptual knowledge reducing dogmatism and modifying attitudes. However, it is suitable only for a small group of say 20 to 30 persons because a larger group often discourages active participation of all the conferees. Under this method, the conferees should have some knowledge of the subject to be discussed. They should be good stimulating leaders who can adopt a flexible attitude and encourage members while brimming out the more reserved. They can develop sensitivity to the thoughts and feelings of individuals, summarize material at appropriate times during a discussion, and ensure a general consensus on points without forcing agreement or sidestepping disagreements. Number 3. Seminar of team discussion. The group learns through discussion of a paper on a selected subject. The paper is written by one or more trainees. Discussion may be on a statement made by the person in charge of the seminar or on a document prepared by an expert. The material to be analyzed is distributed in advance in the form of required reading. Number 4. Case discussion. Under this method, a real or hypothetical business problem or situation demanding solution is presented to the group and members are trained to identify the problems present. They must suggest various alternatives for tackling them, analyze each one of these, find out their comparative suitability, and decide for themselves the best solution. The trainer only guides the discussion and in the process ensures that no relevant aspect is left out of discussion and adequate time is spent on each aspect. This method promotes analytical thinking and problem-solving ability. It encourages open-mindedness, patient listening, respecting others' views, and integrating the knowledge obtained from different basic disciplines. Incidentally, it enables trainees to become increasingly aware of obscurities, contradiction, and uncertainties encountered in a business. This method is extensively used in professional schools of law and management and in supervisory and executive training programs in industry. Number 5. Role playing. This method is also called role reversal, sociodrama, or psychodrama. Here, trainees act out a given role as they would in a stage play. 2 or more trainees are assigned roles in a given situation, which is explained to the group. These are no written lines to be said and naturally no rehearsals. The role players have to quickly respond to the situation that is ever changing and to react to it as they would in the real one. It is a method of human interaction which involves realistic behavior in an imaginary or hypothetical situation. Role playing primarily involves employee-employee relationships, hiring, firing, discussing a grievance problem, conducting a post-appraisal interview, disciplining a subordinate, or a salesman making presentation to a customer. Number 6. Program instruction. This involves 2 essential elements. Number 1. Step-by-step series of bits of knowledge, each building upon what has gone before. And number 2. A mechanism for presenting the series and checking on the trainee's knowledge. Questions are asked in proper sequence and indication given promptly whether the answers are correct. This program may be carried out with a book, a manual, or a teaching machine. It is primarily used for teaching factual knowledge such as mathematics, physics, etc. Responsibility for training. If you have realized that training is quite a stupendous task which cannot be done by one single department, you're right in your thinking. In fact, total responsibility for training has to be shared among number 1, the top management, who should frame and authorize the basis training policies, review and approve the broad outlines of training plans and programs and approve training budgets. Number 2, the personnel department, which should plan, establish and evaluate instructional programs. Number 3, the supervisor, who should implement and supply the various developmental plans. And number 4, employees, who should provide feedback, revision, and suggestions for improvement in the program. A suggested training system. After identifying the training needs, the next step is to design and organize training programs. In large companies, it is possible for the training department to organize several in-company training programs. For designing the training programs on the basis of the training needs, certain points should be kept in mind. They are: number 1. Wherever there are a sizable number of people having the same training needs, it is advisable to organize an in-company program. The organization can save a lot of cost. Besides, by having the group of people from the same workplace, mutuality can be inculcated. The probability of the trainees actually applying what they have learned is high because of high group support. Number 2. Wherever new systems have to be introduced, training is needed to develop competencies needed to run the systems. Number 3. It is better to aim at in-company programs for technical skills wherever possible and outside programs for managerial and behavioral development. Number 4. People performing responsible roles in the organization should be encouraged to go out periodically for training where they would have more opportunities to interact with executives of other organizations and get ideas as well as stimulate their own thinking. Number 5. The training department should play a dynamic role in monitoring the training activities. It should continuously assess the impact of training and help the trainees in practicing whatever they have learned. And number 6, whenever an individual is sponsored for training, he should be told categorically the reasons for sponsoring him and the expectations of the organization from him after he returns from the program. Most companies do not inform the employees why they have been sponsored. Such a practice reduces learning as the employees sponsored are more concerned about the reasons for being sponsored than actually getting involved in and benefiting from the training. You were listening to the audiobook by the School of Management Studies IGNOU for MBA program. Course code MMPC-002 Human Resource Management. Course Coordinator Professor Nayantara Padhi from School of Management Studies IGNOU. Voiceover by Harpreet Kaur. Edited by Tarannum Jahan. Program assisted by Jagbandhu Jana. Program produced by Dr. Manoj Kumar Singh. This program was brought to you by Electronic Media Production Center of Indira Gandhi National Open University.